Progress Wrestling, Chapter 39. Tyler Bate. Trent Seven. Pizza. They're here. British Strong Style is born on this show. They might have had to go around their elbow to get to their asshole, or whatever the saying is, to get there. But they're here, and boy howdy, it was a journey. A new era of Progress Wrestling gets underway on this show, perhaps one of the strongest eras of all time. And it gets underway here as we crown a new Progress champion. Why? Well, we'll get into it right here on the Apron Bump Podcast.
It's the hardest. Talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what heart is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get started.
What is up, everybody? What is going on, people? Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I'm your host, the hardest part of the ring, Kyle Bird. We got a doozy on our hands today, folks. Progress Wrestling Chapter 39. Here in November of 2016. Big show. Why is that hardest part of the ring? Well, let me tell you. Or maybe you already know if you had listened to the previous chapter, which, by the way, if you want to go ahead and do that, there's a link in the description. Go to apronbump.com, go to the episodes tab, hit Progress Wrestling, and that'll bring you to all of the chronological chapters that I have covered from 1 up until now, 39. But at chapter 38 in the previously on the Apron Bump Podcast, we covered a chapter in which Mark Haskins successfully defended the Progress Championship in a main event triple threat match. Great match. Lots going on there. But after retaining his title, my boy Marcus Haskins took his belt, laid it in the middle of the ring, and ski-daddled, effectively relinquishing the Progress Championship, which had a lot of questions as to why this happened. But apparently it was filled in on social media after the fact, on Twitter or whatever was around in 2016. Tout, Periscope. I think MySpace might have been still hanging on by a thread at that point. I don't know. But, I don't know. Hey, here's the promo from Mark Haskins, which kind of explains why he relinquished the title immediately after defending it.
Right, you rolling? Alright, listen. I told everyone that I was a fighting champion, and tonight I proved that. And sometimes in life you have to make really shitty decisions. And right now I've been told by the doctor that I can't wrestle anymore, and I got some issues with my neck that I need to sort out. I'm in a lot of pain. Some days I can't feel my fingers, and I know that if I want to be a Progress Wrestling champion again, I gotta take some time away to fix things. I gotta be with my family right now, and I gotta repair myself. And if I do ever get the chance to wrestle again, and you can bet your fucking money that I'm gonna be a Progress Wrestling champion again one day. Alright? Can you stop filming now, please? Thank you.
Heavy stuff. So on this show, we're crowning a new Progress champion since it has been vacated by Mark Haskins. And the way we get there is by a series of matches, a series of qualifying matches to lead up to a main event, which is a 7-man elimination match to crown a new champion. And the way there, it's a wacky cast of characters in this main event. It's like the theme throughout this episode is that it feels like a new era of Progress. There's a lot of guys that have been like on the undercard, but are now thrusted into that main event position. A new faction is formed at the end of the show, which is very interesting. A certain faction that has some strength and some style that is British, perhaps, if you catch my drift. So very monumental show with all that said, and couldn't have had a better guest to provide the extra context and just to have along for this ride with me. Callum Leslie from nowhere. Don't follow him. I asked him if he wanted to plug anything at the end of the episode. He's like, no, don't follow me. Callum, he was a great guest on this show. I loved having him on. He was one of the commentators for Progress Wrestling during this period and, for many years to come in Progress. Did great work over there. So big shout out to Callum for hopping on this episode with me. And if you want to listen to some of his work, you can check it out on Demand Progress Plus, which is the streaming platform of Progress Wrestling. But they also have a lot of other promotions on there. They got Defy Wrestling, TNT Wrestling, and of course the entire archive of Progress Wrestling. So if you want some more context, maybe you've just been listening to me talk about Progress and this era of Progress, their beginnings, their first 40 chapters or so. Maybe you want to actually watch it. Maybe you want to experience it for yourself. Well, I suggest to you go to Demand Progress Plus and you sign up for their excellent streaming service. And hey, just because I love you so much, feel free to use the promo code WatchProgress5, the number 5, and that'll get you half off your subscription. So for $3 or $4 a month, you can have access to this incredible library. They have a bunch of best of collections. So even if you just want to watch maybe the best of Pete Dunne or the best of Gunther or the best of Ilya Dragunov, the best of Tony Storm, the best of the Atlas title. They got a lot of awesome collections on their streaming service, as well as all of their complete chapters as well, including their most recent chapter, 169, which your boy did a live watch along of chapter 169, Devil on My Shoulder, which you can check out on my YouTube channel, which all of this is in the description. The link for Demand Progress, the promo code, my YouTube channel where you can check out the watch along of that chapter. And I'll be doing more of those in the future. So make sure you subscribe and keep tabs on me on all the social medias at Apron Bump on X, Instagram, all that stuff. So, but yes, use that promo code. Watch Progress 5. I'll say it again, truly a lot of great content and may or may not support the podcast. So strongly encourage you do that as well. So with that said, let's get to today's program. Progress Wrestling, Chapter 39, with myself and former Progress Wrestling commentator, Callum Leslie.
The days are really long here in the summer, so.
Are they? Because you're in Scotland, right?
Yeah.
Are you from Scotland originally?
Yeah.
Okay, I never would have guessed.
Yeah, I think I probably don't sound that Scottish on commentary.
Right. I mean, I am a stupid American, so I don't know anything outside of my continent. So that also plays into it. But
sure.
Very nice sound. I don't know why I'm surprised you have a nice sounding mic. You're a fucking commentator, but
not for a long time, man. Not for a long time. It was another life ago now.
Yeah, I guess it has been a while because you were with Progress for a few years, right?
Yeah. So the first Progress show I did was December 2015, chapter 24, the first Manchester show.
Right.
Because RJ was booked to wrestle somewhere else because he'd unretired.
Classic.
The first time, I think. And I was working in esports at the time as a journalist and a broadcaster in esports. So John and I were friends, so he asked me if I would do it. And I did the first couple of Manchester shows, then Strong Style in 16. And so I guess the last show I would have done would have been Strong Style 2019 before the pandemic.
Okay, so you were there for pretty much the peak.
Yeah,
Progress, yeah. So you were there during the hot period.
In terms of like popularity, yeah, I guess I was a fan for the sort of the Jimmy Havoc storyline and all that early stuff.
Yeah.
I started going to shows at chapter 3. That was my first show. And I was at a lot of shows until Will won the title at 20.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess because would you consider 20 the peak? Because that was kind of the culmination of the Havoc storyline, which is, I mean, from what I've seen, is the best stuff that they put out.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of the in-ring wrestling product, that like 2016-17 boom period, like that period, because I was talking to a friend about this, about PWG from that era, and the names are just insane when you look at it now, right? Like
Right.
guys like Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate wrestling every Progress show. Some of the later shows are the stuff towards those years is really sick. But I guess creatively, I think that's what they were most satisfied with as a piece of storytelling.
Right. Yeah, because from what I've been exposed to in terms of British wrestling, it seems like Progress at some point, or because I've seen a good amount of Rev Pro, and it seems like Rev Pro kind of gears their shows more towards like, dream matches and kind of just bringing people from all over the world. Let's have these crazy matches, and maybe less reliant on the storylines. Do you think Progress kind of shifted to that in that direction as time went on? If that makes any sense.
I think they always tried to tell stories. I think things got more complicated as time went on with the sort of political landscape of wrestling. They did still tell some pretty great stories, though. I think I'm trying to think, Walter's title reign and sort of Travis Banks' title reign and the heel turn in that. All of the stuff that we're watching now, this Pete Dunne title reign, the matches that came out of this were incredible. The next show after this is Pete and Zack Sabre Jr. and they wrestle for like 30 minutes. When Adam Cole versus Will Ospreay is also just on that show.
Right. Casual. Throw it in there, might as well.
It was that time where it was just so busy. Everyone was coming over. Everyone wanted to be in the British scene. So you got these insane cards, and companies would sprout up doing like Tuesday night shows and Thursday night shows, and you could go to wrestling like 4 nights a week and be among like hundreds of people watching international stars. It was what a time to be alive.
Yeah, I mean, here at this show, Chapter 39, the collaboration with WWE and the Cruiserweight Classic. We still got the UK tournament coming up in about a year after this. So yeah, things are cooking. But definitely it's this show here feels like the beginning of I guess they're all chapters, but like a new chapter in Progress, because we're off the heels off of Haskins dropping the title, which Chapter 38 closed with Mark Haskins defending the title against Havoc and Marty Scurll successfully, won the match, came back out, dropped the belt in the middle of the ring, and then skedaddled, leaving to a lot of confusion, both in the ballroom and from myself watching this. Like, what the fuck, Mark? But this show opens up pretty much kind of giving you a reason why. I guess Haskins has neck injuries.
Yeah.
But I guess he wrestled that last match with the injury, but I guess there was just some more, he basically lingering stuff that he needs to get taken care of. So he had to relinquish the title.
Well, he was told to stop. He was told to stop altogether.
Right. Oh yeah.
There's a documentary that a guy called Dale Bowman Brown made about Progress, and Haskins is a major character in that, and his kind of injury journeys, and like they filmed him going to the doctors and stuff. And he was told he had to stop retiring. He had to stop wrestling quite close to Chapter 38, is my understanding. Obviously, that wasn't the plan. I think the plan for that match, by the way, was probably Swerve Strickland against Mark Haskins. Should have been, if he hadn't missed the Manchester show.
Right.
These things fall out. But yeah, I wasn't clued in on what was happening at the end of Chapter 38. Obviously, I wasn't there for this show, but I was there for the two previous shows, for the entire Haskins title reign. Yeah, so I wasn't clued in, and it was done to shock people and sort of create this air of uncertainty. They did announce pretty quickly on social media, I think, like that we'll crown a new champion at the next show, or it was maybe the Monday they announced the full card. I was like, here's what we're doing. We're going to do this elimination match. We'll have a new champion. I remember, because I used to stay with John Briley after the shows, and I remember walking to the train station on the Monday, and we were sort of, they hadn't decided at that point who was going to win, because it was very new information. So they hadn't really decided where they were going to go for it. I think we talked about Matt Riddle and whether or not they should be the people to like just pull the trigger on Matt Riddle. And a couple of shows later, they kind of do that. Talked about Jimmy Havoc and whether or not, babyface Jimmy Havoc, he's just come back from the injury. He's probably as popular as a babyface now as he's ever going to be. A bunch of these guys, but obviously they ended up going in what I think was probably very much the right decision in hindsight.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was the right decision at the time, but it only looked better in hindsight.
Yeah, because I can only imagine, like in the time, in the moment, things must have been pretty chaotic. With things getting shuffled. We've been building up to Haskins in this title reign, and now we got to drop that completely. We got new guys coming in like Riddle, like you mentioned, who makes his debut on this show, and then we got this British Strong Style faction we're building up. And then obviously you have your fail safes, which I feel like are Jimmy Havoc, Marty Scurll, Will Ospreay. But I feel like even like Ospreay and Scurll, if I have my timeline right, this is when they're going to Japan and becoming pretty big over there. At least Ospreay, for sure. Yeah,
so Ospreay had won his first Best of the Super Juniors by this point. So
right.
I think that the situation with Will was that they would use him whenever he was available. And beat him because they were doing a losing streak storyline over a period of time after losing. He loses every match after losing the belt.
Yeah, so not super reliable. I mean, not reliable is not the right word, but you can't really count on him to be there full time, I guess. So probably cut him out, and then we'll go back to Havoc again, or Scurll, who just had the title. I don't know if stale is the word to describe that, but it doesn't feel like the right moment. So going into this, because I didn't know who was going to win the title, I was excited because even like, the main event, once the elimination match was set up, I was like, man, there's a lot of fresh faces in here. There's a lot of guys who have never even sniffed the main event that are potentially going to win the world title here. So it was excited in the moment, as tumultuous as it was, this show, there were high stakes at every match because, like you said, it's the first half of the show. It's all matches to qualify for the main event, which is a seven-man elimination match, and the winner of that elimination match will become the new champion. So each match in this first half will enter you. If you win, will enter you in that match. So the flow of the show was fun. It all led to something. Were you able to catch up on the whole show here?
Yeah, it is interesting because I think you are right when you talk about it as like a new chapter for Progress, almost, that a lot of the people who are going to be main characters for the foreseeable future, let's say the next like couple of years, it was really for, Pete, the year of Pete being champion, and then the South Pacific Power Trip and all of their stuff, and Travis then ended going on and winning that. These really are, and Riddle, we would go on to become a very much a regular fixture over the next little while. And Sebastian was there too.
We'll get into Sebastian. Don't you worry. We'll do a deep dive. Well, getting into the show, man. So it opens up again. With the winner of this match goes on to the main event. We got FSU, the team of Eddie Dennis and Mark Andrews, taking on the South Pacific Power Trip, Travis Banks and TK Cooper. Dahlia Black, of course, with the Power Trip. She comes out, baits FSU. She comes out on the stage. Then the other two guys come from behind, attack them, and we're underway. Thoughts on TK Cooper's overalls?
TK is a fashion icon.
Is that the word, icon?
Yeah, I'll have nothing bad said against Big Teeks. He is a great wrestler. I'm a big fan of TK Cooper. Always was. This was a real fun match, but honestly, one of the first surprising results for me. Because again, when you look at like guys who could be shuffled up to that world title spot, I remember back when I was a fan for the first Strong Style picking Eddie to win that, thinking Mark's just got off to TNA. They've just done the big emotional send off with a singles match. Eddie's got a lot of momentum. Maybe they put, he's always been somebody who could have been pushed to that next level. And obviously, I was always a Mark Andrews guy. I think he was super underrated. And he'd always had that moment of being screwed out of the title, and it was always something you could have gone back to give him that redemption. But instead, they went
believe-
with Travis and TK, which
Yeah.
also then ends up when we get, we'll talk about it when we get there. But that main event ends up very heel heavy.
Oh yeah,
Which is really, I mean, I
think Jimmy Havoc's the only babyface, isn't he?
When Riddle's a baby
Riddle.
face.
Even
But then
that's
Jimmy
a
gets-
little, you know.
Jimmy gets taken out at the start, so like it's Matt Riddle, who's a brand new guy who no one's ever seen before, and a bunch of heels.
Like there's no shot they just give it to Riddle, but it's like might as well. Like why not? I guess.
John Briley loves booking heels against each other. That's a little known fact. He's a big fan of heel versus heel.
I've noticed that. But yeah, Mark Andrews, to your point, Mark Andrews, Eddie Dennis, they're always, you know, good utility guys where you could, you know, shove up to the main event, or they could be a tag team or the undercard or like any place you put them, they'll do good stuff. So they were definitely contenders as I was watching this. I was like, oh, I could see either of these guys winning it. But it was not to be because the Power Trip gets the win here with a I don't know if their move had a finish. It was like a magic killer, but it was like a brain buster, which looked pretty
The Jonah
gnarly.
driver, right? The Jonah driver? I think
Sure.
that's what he called it.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anybody that knows it, it's you. So I'll take your word for
Well,
it.
look, moves were never my strong suit. Like
No,
the
no,
history of what happened at this show
Okay.
4 years ago was my strong
Right.
suit. But I was never a moves guy. But I did sometimes. Sometimes I could get it right.
Yeah. Because I was about to say, you're like the Mike Tenay of progress. I feel like RJ Singh's kind of like the Dusty Rhodes. Glenn's like the Tony Schiavone, and you're there to keep them straight. You're there to tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
Keep the hub up to a minimum. And
Funny enough, I'm pretty sure I was introduced that way by Glenn a few times. And it
oh
was
really?
certainly-
That's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I was always a big Mike Tenay fan watching TNA. I wasn't a WCW kid, so, but I did always admire Mike Tenay and like that. It was always just like, it's where my background is. My background's in like writing and storytelling, and I have a history degree, so obviously I know all about the history of wrestling.
Right, the important stuff.
Yeah, right. I did do my dissertation on wrestling, but
Did you?
yeah, I did it on the world of sport, television history, and how losing the television killed the entire sport, kind of thing. So that's
nice.
my final dissertation at university. Didn't do it.
Hell yeah.
But I had fun writing it.
Let's. I'll release it. I'll take it. I'll read it. You know, I'll give it a
I don't
gander.
know. I've looked for it, but I don't think I have it. I think
You don't
was
have it
just
framed
forgot to go
somewhere?
No.
Damn.
No.
Missed
didn't do very
opportunity. Well,
And Travis's ear gets busted up in this match as well, right?
I was about to say, I think he came in because he came in with
an
it
injury.
bandaged up. Was it just a cauliflower ear, you know, busted it up kind of deal? Or do you know what the
don't
story
know.
was there?
It looked very Trump shooting to me.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Maybe he just got assassinated or attempted. Possibly. We'll have to take a look at that. But yeah, it's just tape around the ear. It does look exactly like the Trump ear, but it does not hold in a wrestling match. So his ear just starts bleeding all over the white canvas, which is great. Great way to start the show. But yeah, Power Trip wins. Hard hitting match. Any other nuggets on that one?
Not really. I think Travis was always someone that they were really high on when they brought him in. I still remember when he came in and hit that flying clothesline on Sexsmith at 32 and took his head off. Yeah, Travis was always a guy they were going to get behind. And obviously TK and Dahlia end up going back to New Zealand, and Travis was on his own for a while. But they were really finding their feet as a tag team. The early stuff kind of struggled. I remember a very long rap battle segment a few shows before this that they will admit themselves was difficult. Difficult day at the office. But they were really starting to hit their stride. And I mean, the Power Trip in 2016, 17, we're going into 17. They really are kind of MVPs of particularly the tag division. You know, they've got a run of insane matches coming up.
Right. Yeah, the tag division in early progress, I feel like, to me, was one of the weaker points because you did have some good teams, but I feel like the depth of the division wasn't super strong. You had FSU, you had the Origin, and then you have teams come in like, what was it, Tommy End and Michael Dante.
Yeah.
I I don't know. Do you have any memories of like early tag division? The Riots, of course. London Riots, probably the foundation of it.
Yeah, well, again, the Riots were one of the real Progress originals, right? Came into that second show, had the run with Jimmy, and then the babyface run, and they were always sort of, you could always insert them into the tag title picture. We've had the War Machine match by this point, right? Because we have the end of the Riots match. Oh, I love that! I love that match so much.
It's so good, so good.
It's one of the few things that I'll ever take credit for, is that the tornado tag stipulation was my idea.
Oh, really? So that's your fault, huh?
Yeah. I was on the train home and I thought about it. I messaged it to John, and the next thing I know, it's announced. But it's like the one time I've ever had any input into anything whatsoever.
Really? Look at this guy. Look at this guy.
But yeah, so the Riots had a lot of hard hitting matches. FSU, FSU kind of ran into the Faceless, which was it
felt like FSU and the Origin were facing each other for like a year straight, like over and over again. And then the Riots would come in every once in a while.
Yeah, we got FSU Origin Riots, and then it was Origin Riots SDS with Tommy and Dante.
Right.
And then the Origin went back off to feuding with FSU, so the Riots and the SDS could feud. It was kind of those four teams. I do think, fates conspired, obviously, and it sadly wasn't able to be a bigger part of Progress, but I do think, having Project Ego around from the early days with Chris Travis, if he'd been able to play a bigger part in Progress, I think you would have seen them as a mainstay of that tag division as well.
For sure. And I'm just realizing now, there was no Origin on this show, was there? I don't think so. I knew this show needed something. I
think we're almost at the end of the Origin here.
Don't say that. Don't tell me that. I'm a well-known Origin mark. They're my favorite faction of all time. They're still going today. Okay, don't let me think otherwise. They're somewhere origining.
I'm a big Nathan Cruz guy. I always was. He's a great dude, and obviously Zach is super talented. Has gone on to do amazing things in States and around the world. Mastiff was a wonderful character. I think with the next show after this is where we get Dave Mastiff playing Santa Claus. So
the Banta Claus,
the Banter Claus, yeah. So we're into the Origin split era where Ligero and Mastiff start doing comedy.
Okay, interesting. I guess that's
the Origin's
kind of
had its time.
Oh wow, yeah. Zach Gibson definitely feels like the odd man out. It's like he should probably go do something on his own. Nathan Cruz is solid on his own too, so I'm fine with the banter division of the Origin splitting up. I guess I'm okay with that.
Well, eventually we'll get the GYV, and then the tag division becomes a real hot thing with GYV and CCK and British Strong Style, and it's going to be a good time.
Off to the races. But until then, we got Joe Coffey taking on Pastor William Ever in this next match to see who moves on to the main events. Before the bell rings, though, Sebastian comes out, our favorite. So it's the previous chapter where Sebastian basically came out and told Pastor, hey, pal, you broke my neck or you've almost killed me at the last chapter. So if you don't become my servant, I will sue you, said Sebastian.
I do wonder if, because obviously what happened with the two of them at Brixton wasn't put out on the video, obviously.
Right.
So I do wonder, like, watching this now, years later, what's your understanding of what actually happened here? Because it was legit. It was there was a legit incident. They had a match booked at Brixton before the bell. Pastor did a big clothesline. Wrestling's not ballet. Sebastian gets knocked out. It's a pretty scary moment. He ends up getting stretchered out. It was pretty scary. For me, it was the first time I'd seen something like that on the biggest show that they'd ever done. It was kind of really scary moment. So it was based on that reality, but obviously because that never made air, I don't know how it kind of came across.
Yeah, I mean, I had to do my research to figure out what happened, which is basically what you described. But I mean, ultimately, I mean, you never want to see something like that happen. But I feel like it fed into the story and probably enhanced the story that they were telling. Because before this, there wasn't a lot going on. It was like Sebastian and Pastor both came out of the Projo, and Sebastian's like, "You're getting all the attention, and I'm not." And that was basically the end of it. Whereas this, there's at least another layer to it. I feel like so it makes it somewhat interesting. I think.
Well, there was a lot of inferences before Brixton about Pastor's past.
Right.
And that obviously then they went in this different direction and didn't talk about his past. But he talked about it publicly a few years later. That he had he'd run-ins with the law and issues in his younger days. I think that's where that was going. He talked about it on a podcast with Jim. A few years later.
I forgot about that. Yeah, Sebastian comes out and he's like, "I know your little secret," and then was basically threatening him that. So I guess it probably would have ended in the same place, just with a different backstory.
Yeah, pretty much.
Interesting.
And I mean, he was very hateable. He was very good at getting people to hate him. Yeah, he was something of a pioneer in social media. He was always nipping at people. He was very good at it. Got very, very popular outside of wrestling on social media. And was an athletic guy, did some good stuff. There's a match coming up where he does one of the most insane moves I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
But yeah, he's a very good character to have on the show. Not you don't want everyone to be Walter, do you? Because then it's not special.
Yeah.
You got to have characters, and you got to have characters that you can actually hate, because we're very much in the era and this boom period of the cool heels, and the heels getting, and that becomes a real problem with British Strong Style. That they're very cool heels because they're just insanely cool. Sebastian, just very hateable. It's underrated.
Yeah, nobody's cheering Sebastian. That's for sure. No, there's nothing. What you could cheer his MVP gear, the long sleeve. I don't know what you call it. It's a singlet, but with long sleeves.
The theme's a banger.
And he's just taking a Drake song. He's got stupid hair. He's got his face. I hate his face.
He does have his face.
Yeah, unfortunately.
He was wearing a spectacular suit when he came back a few shows before this. The tartan.
Yeah.
It's a good look. It's
okay. Well, Sebastian's here, but no, I agree. And even towards the tail end of 2016 to today, it's hard to be a heel because people like to be the cool heel, like you said. But Sebastian, he just has he's just a slimy little cunt. There's no really other way to describe him. And
if we're talking about what real men look like, let's talk about my guy Joe Coffey,
the Iron Man.
I mean, I always loved the Scottish guys. Obviously, Noam Dar was like my first Progress favorite. I never got to call a Noam Dar match, which rankled me.
One day,
but I did get to call quite a few Joe matches, and Joe's sick. He throws a hell of a lariat. The match he had with Rampage at Brixton was awesome. The match they had in the ballroom a few shows before Brixton in the tournament was awesome. They did the draw. I think he does some really cool stuff here at the end. But obviously, that Sebastian gets involved as he does, and the pastor cheats to win, and like Sebastian's trying to convince him to do. And I think Joe Coffey does a lot of really great work in putting that over and putting over the kind of shock of this guy changing direction, doing something you wouldn't expect. I just love the way he sits up from the pin cover and then just sort of exasperatedly falls backwards again. It's just a lovely bit of physical acting.
No, Joe Coffey's great. I mean, the stuff he was doing in this match, he just had such a fun heavyweight style. It's such like there's a lot of old school elements to it, like where it's just a lot of clubbing, a lot of good lariats and power slams and stuff like that. But he's also, throwing in a bit of a modern flair with some, the toss up European uppercuts. And then I think Pastor comes back with a crucifix power bomb, drops Coffey right on his neck. But ultimately, Coffey gets Pastor in a Boston Crab. Pastor taps out, but Sebastian is distracting the ref, and Pastor's able to take advantage by rolling up Joe Coffey with the tights, damn near pulling them off. Really wanted that win. And the crowd does not lie. I mean, pastors, crowd loves the pastor, but the crowd is not receptive to this. They were not happy with old Bill Lever here. And Bill seemed remorseful. He was like, I didn't want to do it, but Sebastian, he tells me what to do. I had to do it. And pastor gets the win and seemingly moves on to the main event. But Sebastian comes in the ring with a mic, says, hey, Bill, appreciate it. You just assured me my spot in the main event. So Pastor won the match, but he earned the spot for Sebastian in the main event, which I'll admit I did see coming, but even just execution of it, him talking, him saying it with his face made me boo at my screen watching this. So good little segment here, I thought.
Yeah, very hateable. I think the Sebastian gets a great spot in the main event. It does a lot for him. I love Joe Coffey, and they really battered each other. Pastor was coming off the title reign, was really the first sort of homegrown star out of the Pro Joe. They wanted to do a lot with him. Obviously, gave him the world title for a show, which was an amazing moment.
Right.
Until Sebastian ruined it.
You piece of shit, Sebastian. I'll never forgive him for it. Never forgive him. He deserved that lariat at Brixton. I'll say it. I'll say it.
No, we're not saying that. We're not saying
we're
that.
both saying it, everybody. It's okay. Sometimes
absolutely not saying
just
that.
two guys saying that Sebastian.
That's not acceptable.
But yeah, this main event's shaping out weirdly already. Sebastian and TK Cooper and Travis Banks. Three, pretty fresh faces. So interesting. It's shaping up interesting, I think. But after that, we got the tag team championships on the line, but is also to work your way into the main event. We got British Strong Style represented by Pete Dunne and Trent Seven defending against the London Riots. What are your thoughts on these shields?
I think the shields had their place. I think they went with the sort of iconography thing of the titles rather than belts. They did eventually switch to belts because they were hugely impractical. Funnily enough, the champions never took them away with them. They were always kept like in the ring van.
Right.
So, because nobody's putting that in their suitcase.
Yeah, like what kind of luggage could you even fit that on? You have to carry it on.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do that.
No one wants to do that. So they did eventually switch to belts, but I think it was fun. It was a fun idea. I think that shot of FSU getting it for the first time and like putting them together is pretty iconic.
Right.
In the history of Progress. So I think it was it had its time.
Using them as weapons is fun occasionally, so it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I'm ready for the belts. And it seems like British Strong Style is, because they walk out there with the shields and they just drop the shields on the stage and keep on walking. So they don't want that. I guess in commentary is kind of reinforcing that. I guess I don't know if it's been on social media during this time, but they've been begging for some belts. They want some real, championships. So I don't know if is that coming soon? Do you remember?
46.
Not soon enough. Not soon enough.
I think that's the following spring, right? So yeah.
Yeah, we're here in November, I think this is.
Yeah.
So yeah. So one day we'll get there.
Yeah, so we'll get there pretty soon. I think a lot of these promos are still on YouTube. A lot of this really old stuff. So I think there's stuff even back from the early single digit chapters still up there. So
I'll need to do some deep diving.
Yeah.
This is a fun match.
Some of these Pretty Strong Style promos are good, and there's definitely one after this that they posted after this show that is kind of important to see for the. See this, right. I do wonder this, because obviously social media was such a big part of Progress, and the promos and the videos with with the guys behind the show and the announcements on social media was such a big part of it. I do wonder how it all comes across now, if you're just watching like show to show, as you would kind of expect to do.
Yeah, because there's not really on these chapters. There's not like backstage vignettes or anything, so there's probably a lot that I'm missing Never really thought about that, because even like Jimmy Havoc, like his introduction to Progress, wasn't that like a groundswell like on social media, like,
Yeah.
hey, let's get this guy on the show, and then that led to what it led to. So yeah,
Yeah, and there was a
that's
really funny
incredible.
training montage video that he did, which I don't think you can find anywhere anymore. But yeah, that was all online, and there were videos back and forth, and yeah. So it does kind of, it very much was Progress. It does feel like it was of its time in a lot of ways. I think it sort of exists better in that time period. The Riots, obviously, as we said, have been around since Chapter 2, big focus of the tag division. They'd finally had their title reign. The Riots were reliable. They were having they'd have good matches. They'd had a fun little title reign. But British Strong Style was clearly the direction. We see that coming out of this show, and really, as you say, from now, British Strong Style are really dominant over Progress for the next 2 years. I don't remember time.
As long as they want to, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, time's not real. I agree.
55, so it would be the next year, the next autumn. So it's not a full year beats Champion 4. But yeah, they're really the main characters going forward, and that wasn't really the case. The only British Strong Style only came together just before Brixton. It felt almost like thrown together at the time. It was a bit, not that it was thrown together, but I think not that it was thrown together. I think it was very deliberate, but just the way it played out over the shows, because you've only got so many shows to do stuff on. It didn't come together until quite late into Brixton. And then suddenly the biggest part of the show.
Right. And with Haskins going down, I'm sure it was accelerated for sure, if nothing else. But the match itself here, British Strong Style, London Riots, is pretty much what you would expect. There's a lot of outside brawling. There was a human centipede finger bite is what I wrote down here, whereas all four guys are biting each other's fingers. Everybody's trying to chop each other against the post, and they all miss and hit the post. I feel like the third or fourth guy is like, hey, maybe I shouldn't try to chop this guy against the post, but maybe adrenaline gets the best of you. I don't know.
But there's a comedy instinct in that, isn't there? That if you're guy number 4, you're like, isn't this so much funnier if I do? Like, I know it's going to happen now, but isn't it just funnier if I do it?
They're all just hunched over, holding their hands, and they can't punch each other because their hands are all broken. It's just, there was some fun stuff in the beginning. Speaking of which, this crowd is not too happy with Pete Dunne. Just the Peter and the This is Peter chants. Peter, I don't know. Does he not like being called Peter? I probably wouldn't if my name was Peter, to be honest.
I think Trent had made a point of calling him Peter in a video promo in a really kind of deliberate way that the fans then picked up on and used to in their funny chants.
Well, it's got some heat to him, if that's what you want to call it, I guess. But the crowd's really reacting to Pete. It kind of started at the chapter before this, or maybe 2 chapters before this, and I feel like that potentially could have factored into him maybe winning the title in the main event. Silly as it sounds, but oh, by the way, Rob Lynch comes into this match with a broken face. Yeah, he comes in with the old Cody Rhodes mask, the clear mask covering his face. Yeah, I guess he has a broken orbital bone and a broken jaw, among other things, I think, right?
Yeah, he'd got hurt. I think he was maybe at Preston City Wrestling the weekend of Brixton. And those guys were in a really tough spot on that show as well, because they were the match directly after Sebastian and Pastor.
Right.
So after we'd had the show stop, that was the first match. And they came out and really, leathered each other to get the crowd back alive. And Rob was doing all that with a broken face. Shout out Rob Lynch.
I think it was a cricket bat to the face, right? That's the most British way to break your face, I think. So might as well.
I'm gonna see if I can figure out who broke his face.
Yeah. But as the match went on, British Strong Style, of course, they're taking advantage of this injury. They're taking Rob Lynch. I think his mask gets ripped off at some point. Pete just starts he grabs his nose and twists it. It's really brutal stuff. On top of all the digit manipulation he's so known for, and then Trent Seven's doing some of the similar stuff. James Davis gets in there with the hot tag, though, to make the save. Double Samoan drop on British Strong Style. Rob Lynch. At this point, everything just breaks down. Rob Lynch spears Trent Seven off the apron, goes to the top rope, goes for a spiral tap onto Pete Dunne, but misses. British Strong Style, they hit their German suplex, European uppercut combo. Davis breaks up the pin. Some trading in the middle of the ring. They're both hitting lariats on each other, backing up, lariats. I think British Strong Style hit tandem pop-up power bombs at the same time, and then the Riots return the favor. It was kind of a chaotic match, but I thought this was fun. What'd you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a classic London Riots match in a lot of ways, and I think British Strong Style were very, very capable of wrestling that brawling style. It was, it would become still a little bit more refined into that British Strong Style, but it's, it's very, very similar to the match that they had at Brixton, which again I thought was excellent.
Someone, I think it's Trent, tries to hit Rob Lynch with a cricket bat again. This guy's got PTSD, this poor boy. But Lynch blocks it and sends it into Pete Dunne's face. And at this point, Pete Dunne comes back and bites the face of Rob Lynch, because why wouldn't you? And British Strong Style hits their tandem pile driver pump kick to the face to get the win, and they retain the Progress Shields. So they retain the titles. And I'll be honest, when I was watching this, I was like, okay, they're the tag team champions. There's no shot a guy becomes a double champion at the end of the show. But big egg on my face, I guess.
No, I mean, I think that was totally fair. And there's a consideration that if you've obviously got a plan for Pete and Trent as your tag team champions, so you don't really want to have to abandon that plan as well as the plan you had for Haskins. But these things do have to shuffle, and that was the direction they went in. I think there was no doubt that they were going to keep the tag titles, and the Riots were moving away from the tag titles at this point, which was probably the right time for them to cycle out.
Were they building towards like animosity between each other, the Riots, at the end of this show? Because it seemed like that's what they were going for, but it didn't seem like the crowd responded that way. Because I think James Davis distracted the ref, which I think cost them the match, and then Davis eventually took the cricket bat and walked off without Rob Lynch. I don't know if that was just me. I don't know. I
think this was, we've been losing a bunch of matches. It's not really working what had been working. So I think it's a bit of sort of inter-team frustration rather than maybe turning on each other frustration. I think towards the start of the next year, they do a sort of slight change of look and, try and refocus themselves a little bit.
They get away from the brawling, maybe just get a little like Johnny Saint-esque, just straight graps, no frills.
I don't think
maybe.
So.
Just more headlocks, less cricket bats, I think might help them out. But after that, boy howdy, we got a debut here. We got Matt Riddle taking on Will Ospreay, which, I mean, just seeing that on paper gets the gears going. My main takeaway from this match, and we'll get into it, but this is the Matt Riddle that WWE needed, or any promotion out there, wherever Riddle is nowadays. Like, this is the Riddle we need. Like, he was so aggressive in this match, so fun to watch, fresh off of his UFC run still, but still so good. It was crazy how good he was at pro wrestling, like just right off the bat. I don't know. What did you make of this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he had that sort of Kurt Angle natural talent gift. To your point, I think Matt's probably past the point of his career of playing those significant roles because of his own decisions. But yeah, I mean, he was very hot at the time. I think as soon as they had this one match with him with Progress, they wanted him to come back as many times as they could, and he would come back a lot over the following year. Really did become a regular in the way that we hadn't really seen many Americans become for Progress, just because he was such a natural fit in what Progress was trying to do.
Right.
obviously Will's in this match. I mean, it's what a privilege to have been able to watch Will Ospreay grow up.
Oh yeah.
I think the first Will Ospreay match I saw live was Chapter 11, because he had the storyline where he was out for a bit very early on. And he was always amazing. And here he's already in Japan, but you can see how far he is from the Will Ospreay of today. Just even like the ring gear and the presentation. Yeah, he's really grown up from there, but having incredible matches every time. You know, he had a match with Zach earlier this year, 34, where Zach had the bandaged head, I remember, which was awesome. He had the match with Shane Strickland at 35. Yeah, this match was always going to be exciting. And I think it's, you know, they went short, which I think was the right decision. It's a packed show. You know, you've got this mismatch of the matches in the first half. It's probably like the best 8-minute match you'll ever see.
Whew, yeah. I mean, it was because it was right out the gate. You know, both guys get in the ring introductions are starting. And I think it might have even been before the bell. Riddle blasts Ospreay with a flash knee to the face, stomps some German suplexes, throwing him all over the ring, catching Will off guard. Crowds, you know, I guess we're kind of establishing him as a heel in this match, or maybe he's just being aggressive because, you know, later he didn't really appear like a heel at all. But yeah, I mean, just Riddle throwing out all of his stuff, the Fisherman Buster, everything he does. I mean, even just like the basic scoop slams he does, there felt like there was so much malice behind him, and it was so fun to watch. Then Ospreay at some point he like counters a gut wrench suplex. He like flips out of it right into a handspring kick. I mean, it was just, this match was a sprint of a match. Like it was a very short match. Well, not very short. It was pretty short. But I think they maximized the time and they told a good story within those 8 minutes or so. You know, Will's on the outside throwing out moonsaults off the little ledge there. Sasuke specials. I mean, this version of Will Ospreay, I mean, is just like, I think it's almost like, because he's not like the scrawny little kid from the single digit chapters, but he's not like today where he's like a heavyweight guy. So he still has that really hyper high flying style to him. Anything about this match in particular catch your eye?
Yeah, I think, as you say, the high flying stuff from Will is still very much the core of his style at this point. But you see stuff like the Robinson special coming in and adding in those strikes. And, you know, he starts to then add the power moves in. Obviously gets to having Stormbreaker and things like that. And becomes, as you say, that big heavyweight guy. But yeah, I think there's also, I think part of this match from Will, the story that he's telling, I don't know if you saw the Bryan Danielson Hechicero match, but
yes,
the sort of Bryan Danielson's kind of shock at what Hechicero's bringing. We got a little bit of that from Will here, that like, you know, Matt Riddle was still pretty new in wrestling, pretty new over here. I don't know if this might have been his first match in the UK. So, you know, that sort of, well, where did you come from kind of thing.
Right.
I thought was well told by Will. And obviously, you know, this was something of a surprise, I guess. Will being the established Progress star and Matt Riddle being the new guy. I think a lot of people would have expected Will to be in the mix for getting that title. But at the end of the day, they didn't put him in the match. I think it was, obviously it was the story they were telling anyway. They're telling he's losing on all these shows. But if he's not going to win, I think Will Ospreay distracts from who is going to win, you know?
Right. Yeah, I was thoroughly convinced that Ospreay was going to come out the winner because, like you said, he's the established guy, always a guy you can go back to. You could even tell a new story because before he was like this plucky underdog guy that grew up in front of the Progress audience, won the title. Now he's a more established guy. You could tell maybe the story that he's getting too big for his britches. Like, yeah, you're in Japan winning all the tournaments over there, but you just have a different persona about him. So I was like, oh yeah, Ospreay's probably going to beat Riddle. He's coming out here, you know, he's catching him off guard. He's got no shoes and stuff like that. But
you fully expect him to get that sort of debuting, you know, goes down, but looks great. Will leaves Matt Riddle in the center of the ring, you know, raises the fist and the crowd does the whole, please come back. And no, he's going to the main event.
Yeah. Debuted and, hey, I'm the world champion.
Yep.
Is what could have happened. We were very close to it, but yeah. Riddle in this match, I mean, the finishing stretch, there's no way you could take notes on everything that happened. There was just crazy reversals and flips and just dynamic kicks and strikes all over the place. But ultimately, Matt Riddle hits a jumping tombstone pile driver and then locks in the bro mission for the tap out. So Ospreay loses, continues his losing streak, and Riddle's off to the main event. But yeah, just a really explosive match is the word I would put towards this. It's like you said, the best 8-minute match you'll ever watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
But after that, we got the final qualifier for the main event. Two staples here. We got Jimmy Havoc taking on Marty Scurll. So I'm watching this. I mean, as of right now, we got British Strong Style, we got Sebastian, we got the South Pacific Power Trip. So we got 6 really fresh guys in the main event scene, and then we got one of these two. So I'm watching this. I'm like, oh, whoever wins this is probably going to be the champion coming out of this, but that was not to be. But building to this match, obviously, Havoc cost Marty the title at Brixton, so there's still a lot of animosity there. They were both involved in the triple threat title match at the last chapter. Neither guy won. And, Jimmy Havoc's back from his injury. Just a bit. I mean, has there ever been a bigger star in progress, I guess, quote unquote, homegrown than Jimmy Havoc?
I mean, you can make an argument for Will.
Yeah.
Since he was there from so early on. But no, I mean, Jimmy Havoc was the ultimate progress project, I think. Jim Smallwood always used to say, and the way the world works out and things happen, but if there was a Progress Hall of Fame, Jimmy Havoc would probably be the first person in it.
Right. Yeah, because it's like my exposure to Jimmy Havoc was like when AEW started, and he was in the beginning of that. And at the time, I was like, don't really care about this guy. He's a scrawny guy with the emo haircut. He's stapling things to people, like whatever, right? And then I start watching Progress from the beginning, and just the way his character was built, the story he went through, the title reign he had, the things he did. I'm watching this now. He's like the biggest star I've ever seen when I'm watching these shows. So it's a testament to his journey and progress. So it was a sight to see. And Marty Scurll, similar, maybe to a lesser extent, but a similar journey.
Yeah, I mean, Marty was a guy who was around from the very first show, had the best match on the first show, really the standout with him and Zach.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Jimmy coming off the Brixton return was as popular as he'd ever been, as maybe ever would be as a babyface. It's always the way after these monster heel runs, you do get you can do a big babyface run. I mean, he did try and like cut Will Ospreay's ear off, but not
that's hack.
Not to go all Hangman Page on you, but like everybody's forgotten what he did.
But by the way, so this is the product of watching this, years after the fact. I didn't really get it at first. Did you get the reference at the start of this match? With the spears? With the, I think is it Havoc? Yeah, Havoc comes out with 2 spears and then a Rainmaker for a 2 count. Do you know what match they were referencing?
No.
So we are fresh off of the Survivor Series match between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, where Goldberg squashed Brock Lesnar with 2 spears and a jackhammer. So Havoc comes out here with
I don't think I even
spears.
appreciate that at the time, to be honest.
Well, I would have never gotten that had the crowd not started chanting. I think they started chanting Havoc in like the Goldberg tone.
Oh,
and I was like, oh yeah, that does kind of make sense. And I've also never seen Havoc do a spear, so I was like, that's kind of odd. It was very, very funny. But
usually when someone does a spear in Progress, they're referencing Roman Reigns.
Oh yeah. Well, they didn't cock the fist or anything. They didn't do the ooh-ah, so not the same.
I'd love to see Jimmy Havoc do the ooh-ah. That would have.
Man, that would have. He would have won the match, or he did win the match, I guess. So I guess he didn't need it. But yeah, a fun brawl. I mean, if you've seen a match between these two, you kind of know what you're expecting. It's a very like these first half matches. Like the matches in the first half, they all felt very fast. They were all kind of sprints in their own way. This one was a similar, like they're brawling on the outside right out the gate, throwing each other into the chairs, Havoc gets in there throwing out some GTSs. I think he throws out a Pele kick, which caught me off guard. White meat babyface Havoc.
I think it's safe. I think it's safe to say that babyface Jimmy Havoc was still trying to figure out what moves he did.
Right.
Because when you're a heel, you have you have a very specific move set, and also you do less moves because you're not trying to do flashy spots. So I think there was a period where Jimmy would do stuff in matches just to see if if it got a response, or and then maybe see how good it looked. Because I know we started doing Hurricane Rana and stuff. With the flying head scissors. I get in trouble if I call it Rana.
Don't worry, I won't tell anybody. Lucha Havoc he's a menace. He's a menace. This girl's out here though. I mean, this body slam he does onto the ropes, like he makes Havoc's leg hit the ropes. It's a spot I've seen a couple times in my day, but it looked brutal. I mean, we're also coming off of Havoc's knee injuries, so there's a story there. So I like that piece of psychology in this.
Did Glenn remember to say that that's the kind of move that ended the career of Rick the Model Martel? Usually, every time someone did a move where they did the legs into the turnbuckle, he would reference Rick the Model Martel.
Damn, I don't know, man. It must have hurt him. It must have caused trauma in Glenn's youth. Can't blame him. But yeah, there's a lot of chaos, especially towards the end here. We got umbrellas come into play, of course. Marty's in there with the umbrella. Ref takes it as the ref is disposing of the umbrella. Marty with a low blow to Jimmy and then a rainmaker of his own for a 2 count. So we got some fun near falls here towards the end. Havoc goes for the rainmaker on Skrull, but he takes out the referee on the windup, which looked a little suspicious. Marty comes back with the umbrella shot, but Havoc blocks it, hits him with a low blow. And eventually Havoc throws the umbrella to Marty, does the old Eddie Guerrero, takes a bump, ref sees it, DQs Marty Skrull. It doesn't always end in a DQ. It's usually like a distraction into a roll-up or something, but nope. This is how Havoc beats Marty Skrull here, which I thought was awesome. Like just the animosity these two guys have with each other at this point, just like kind of like a fuck you kind of finish. It felt like it worked for me.
Yeah, I think, the story wasn't over with these two. They were going to go on. They weren't finishing up here. And I think this was a good way to keep it going. It was also a good way to, not have it take focus from the title match and have it be kind of a secondary plot for a bit until it came back up. It's the next show in Sheffield. They do the no DQ match.
Right. Yeah, I mean, still two of the top guys in progress.
As well as Adam Cole versus Will Ospreay and Pete Dunne versus Zack Sabre Jr. Sorry, just remembering everything that's on that card.
But where's Sebastian? Sebastian must have a match somewhere, right?
Is he on 40? I don't know if he's on 40. He's on the first Birmingham show.
Oh, thank God.
He does his twisting on Prettier, and it looks really sick.
maybe I'll turn around on him once I see that. We'll see. So we move to the second half of the show. There's only 2 matches in the second half because the last match is a 7-man elimination, so it takes a while. But before that, we got a first round match in the Natural Progression Series to crown the first ever women's champion in progress. We are off of Ginny beating Pollyanna to win the first round match. And now we got Nixon Newell, otherwise known as Tegan Knox, taking on Katie Harvey. Katie comes out. I'm not too familiar with the Katie Harvey. I guess she's Irish. She's coming out with middle fingers, so she seems like a salty lass. Any background on this Katie Harvey?
Yeah, she was a big part of OTT in Ireland, which was really at this point starting to rise up as one of the top promotions in Europe.
Right.
So she was. We'll start to see guys like Devlin and Katie Harvey coming over. Yeah, I think Katie's great. She's a really good wrestler. I thought this was a really great match. Honestly, I think these two are both super talented. Obviously, Nixon ended up going to WWE and hasn't maybe quite had the run. Has had some bad luck with injuries.
Right.
I actually just recently rewatched her match, the no DQ match she had with Dakota Kai on the final takeover. And yeah, it was a lot. It's a shame that she's not yet got to show what she can do. But she goes, she gets the win here, which I think was pretty expected. She was very popular already with the ballroom. They loved the theme. Everybody loves Bewitched. It very much appealed to the Progress fan base.
Right.
And she'd go on to have a great match with Ginny in the semifinals.
Yeah. Nixon, I mean, she's still pretty new here. But to your point, C'est La Vie is her entrance theme. It always gets the crowd up. We love her, just a very likable person. Katie Harvey not really endearing herself to the audience. And boy, Katie Harvey made a mistake in only wearing one sleeve in this match.
Okay, so
the crowd.
It's really interesting watching these shows. Like, how long are we after this? 7 years ago? Like, when I was a Progress fan, I was part of the problem, man. I'm not going to say I wasn't. I was part of the problem. I was always looking to start chants and, be funny. But now when you watch it back, you're like, I do wish sometimes you could have just shut up and watched the wrestling.
Yeah, this definitely was a situation where they hijacked the match a bit.
And Progress did have this reputation, right? The Progress crowd did have this reputation that there were quite a lot of vocal fans online at the time who were like, I can't stand the Progress crowd. They're just trying to get themselves over. They're really obnoxious. And yeah, I can see why people thought that.
Mm-hmm. I think it's an acquired taste because I did think that when I first started going through these shows, or maybe I'm just used to it. I don't know. Whenever I bring on like an American guy, I introduce somebody to Progress. They're like, what the hell is up with this crowd? They wouldn't shut the hell up. But yeah, they do have their moments. But yeah, I mean, the shitty little sleeve, shit Winter Soldier, yay, sleeve, all the classics. But ultimately, Nixon wins with a very stiff-looking Shining Wizard for the win. I guess it is the shiniest wizard, so it's to be expected. So gets the win. Did I hear right? I think Katie was the PWG Women's Champion at this point. Maybe it was a different.
No,
promotion.
Not PWG. It would be PW something.
I don't think does PWG have a women's title?
No.
I was about to say it sounded weird when I heard it.
They just have Candice LeRae getting kicked in the face by the Young Bucks.
Right. When she won the tag team titles by herself. I remember that.
Yeah. No, I don't. It wasn't. It would have been PWA maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Well, she's a champion somewhere, and she is. I have seen her a bit in OTT because I'm watching that along with this timeline. So making a name for herself for sure. Yeah, her and Jenny should be a good one. Two favorites, I would assume. But that leads us to the main event. We got a 7-man elimination match for the Progress World title that has been vacated. We got Travis Banks versus TK Cooper versus Sebastian versus Pete Dunne versus Trent Seven versus Matt Riddle versus Jimmy Havoc. And I'm looking at this lineup. I'm like, well, it's got to be Jimmy Havoc, right? But Marty Scurll has something to say about that because everybody comes out and Jimmy Havoc comes out last. And Marty Scurll comes from behind the curtain, attacks Havoc with the umbrella. Still pissed that he cost him the match, or that he lost the match in such a way. They had to carry Havoc out, but he might come back at some point.
Yeah, fine. He's fine.
Yeah. TK's got some fresh dungarees, though, so that's good. That's good. He didn't wear them during the match, which I appreciate, though. I don't support the overalls in wrestling. I'm sorry. Unless you're Hillbilly Jim.
Okay.
No overalls in wrestling.
I think it's great. Did you like his pajamas back at Strong Style?
I didn't hate them as much as the overalls.
Good
it's not, by the way, for people unfamiliar, it's not overall. It's overalls, but they're shorts. So with knee pads and boots, like the whole combination of things. It's like you pick one thing, it's fine, but all of them together, it's just not. I can't support it. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's more lederhosen than dungarees, but I think it's a great look. I think do what you can to stand out, right? No one else was wearing really short dungarees on the British wrestling scene at the time.
You're not wrong. Well, there's a lot going on in this match.
Yeah.
Riddle starts out hot, hits because Sebastian's kind of the focal point in the beginning. Because like when Havoc is originally carried out, you're left with just a weird crop of guys, and Sebastian's in the middle of this group of guys. and everybody gangs up on him. Riddle hits him with a knee right at the bell. We got suicide dives all over the place. We got Riddle stretching everybody one after the other. We got a 5-way submission at some point. I don't know. What were your kind of takeaways from this match, I guess?
Yeah, I think they did a good job they had this sort of early part of the match with Strong Style and Riddle and Sebastian, and then the power trip get filtered out of the match and Jimmy comes back in. It's a 7-man match, so there's a lot going on. They managed to do quite a good job of sort of ebbing and flowing the different stories of the match before it converged in on the final couple.
Right.
So I think they did it's a difficult match to put together. I think they did a pretty good job. I think Riddle got to show his personality a little bit more as well, because he's not wrestling he's not in a sprint anymore. He's not wrestling all the time. So, the crowd just singing his name and he's just dancing in the corner while the heels are trying to looking at beating each other up. It's that sort of goofy Matt Riddle coming out.
Yeah, and Riddle, he came out looking like a beast as well. He hits the bro to sleep and then a fisherman buster to TK Cooper to eliminate him. And then match continues on. Then Jack Sexsmith comes out. Mr. Kako to Sebastian. They've been feuding for a bit. And this is when Havoc comes back out, hits the Rainmaker on Sebastian. He's eliminated. Part of me was like, Sebastian going to win this? Like, imagine he won the title.
He doesn't go out first, though. TK goes out first.
Right, yeah. TK gets out first, then Sebastian.
Which I was surprised.
And Trent Seven hits a second rope pile driver to Travis Banks to eliminate him, which looked brutal. British Strong Style hits their tandem pump kick pile driver to Matt Riddle to eliminate him. I thought Matt Riddle might make it to at least the final 2, but that was not to be. So we are left with a 2-on-1 situation. We got British Strong Style, Pete Dunne, and Trent Seven versus Jimmy Havoc, essentially. And obviously is a 2-on-1 double beatdown. But then Havoc hits the Rainmaker onto Trent and eliminates him. It's a bit of a wonky kick out situation, but he got there. And then the ref is wiped out. And then all hell breaks loose. Trent doesn't leave. He's still there. He comes in. Low blow to Jimmy Havoc. They hit their pump pile driver again. Takes a second for another ref to come in. He slides in. 1-2 kick out. Havoc fights back with a low blow of his own. Hits a Rainmaker onto Pete Dunne, because now we're just down to Pete Dunne and Jimmy Havoc, technically in the match. Rainmaker for a 2 count, or Trent pulls the ref to break up the pin, and then just wrecks the new ref for no reason. Sends him into the crowd. What a piece of shit. And then Tyler Bate comes out, which in the context of where we're at here, so Mustache Mountain came into progress a few chapters ago. Pete Dunne, Trent Seven and Tyler Bate. And then Trent turned on Tyler Bate to align with Pete Dunne.
As Pete turned on his brother.
Right. Old Damian Dunne. Can't forget the Dunne brothers. And so now Tyler Bate is back here to assumingly get his revenge on these nasty derelicts, the British Strong Style. But old Tyler gets in the ring. He rips his shirt off. He takes a look at Pete and Trent, who are cowered in the corner. Tyler Bate twirls his mustache, gives the old too sweet equivalent, and hits Jimmy Havoc with a tombstone. And then Pete Dunne takes advantage, hits the bitter end onto Jimmy Havoc. 1, 2, 3. New champion, the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne. Now British Strong Style is complete. The trio is here, entering a new era of progress, and I'm all for it. What did you make of this ending stretch, I guess, of this match?
See, again, it's funny out of context now, isn't it? Because British Strong Style obviously would go on to be this powerful force in not just Progress, but all of European wrestling. They really were the backbone of the NXT UK experiment. Yeah. At the time, again, it was kind of weird, right? Because Trent had just turned on Tyler, And then Trent and Pete had beaten Tyler and Damien a couple of shows before, but Trent's Tyler's mentor, he still had a voice in his ear. And I think it did kind of maybe feel inevitable that Tyler was going to be part of that, come back to the fold, as it were.
Right.
And it really does set up this incredible British Strong Style run over the next year.
But where is Damien Dunn in all this, is my question. Was he just left out in the cold?
He'll be back. He's
a deputy, right? He gets his badge.
Does a cop gimmick.
They're really forking the road there. But yeah, British Strong Style is here. Pete Dunne's the first ever double champion in Progress, which is crazy. It feels like just a few chapters ago, he was Dynamite Pete Dunne with the awful pants. Yeah. Now it feels like overnight he's just the man. But I love Pete Dunne. Love all three of these guys. So happy to see them as a group. It's odd to see them as a heel faction. A heel faction that's running Progress nonetheless, when they were, they've been undercard, tag team champions, of course, but a lot of things had to get shuffled, but I think they shuffled pretty well. And as time will tell, I think it ended up for the best. I think it was a good decision. Yeah,
look, the guys who ran Progress were smart guys, and they were real wrestling fans and were plugged into it. I'm not surprised they made the right call. I don't really know I don't know if I knew sort of who I thought was going to win when because I was just watching from afar, frantically refreshing my Twitter feed because live streams weren't a thing in old Progress.
Oh yeah, you had to get the VHS right after the fact.
I remember buying the first DVDs. Came in this little cardboard sleeve with like a printed out label sticked on the front.
Right.
They were all individually numbered.
Did you guys? Is Blockbuster over there, or is that just an American thing?
Well, we had it, but not anymore.
Oh yeah, not anymore. Nobody has it anymore. But yeah, I didn't know if that was. Yeah, I'll get all my wrestling stuff from Blockbuster. But
yeah,
I don't know if
it was a bold decision to get behind a guy who wasn't really a top guy anywhere yet. I think he probably was on WWE's radar from the Cruiserweight Classic qualifiers. But it was Progress who put him in that position, not WWE. WWE picked the guys who won, but Progress got to pick the other guys. So they clearly saw that Pete was someone they wanted to develop and use in the future. And he'd go into this incredible run on top. The matches he's going to have with Zach, with Travis, with Dijak. So many great matches. Mandrews, Haskins, Havoc. He's going to get involved in all the CCK stuff. It really that does feel like a big peak of Progress. Maybe Progress's second peak is this British Strong Style run, just because then Pete became so popular globally that it really put a spotlight on Progress because he was carrying both belts.
Yeah, and Pete, he's been OTT champion already. He's like the main fixture there. Rev Pro even, he's won titles there. So he's making his name for himself all around Europe at this point and beyond. So I guess not too surprised with all that context. But yeah, him as well as Tyler and Trent also being elevated by this. Definitely excited to see what's to come for these guys.
And Tyler, again, was a guy who, from his very first match in Progress, when he was 19? 18, 19?
I think so, yeah. 18 or 19.
Was just clearly incredible.
When he lost to Damien Dunn in the Natural Progression series, I think I threw something out the window. I was like, what are we doing? Deputy Dunn over Pete or Tyler Bate? Come on now.
God, who did he lost to Pastor, didn't he? Damien Dunn.
I think so, yeah. I believe.
Testing my memory. I used to have all this just like on deck, but it's rusty.
Right. Yeah, Pastor did win, so that sounds right. But I don't know, man. I guess all's well that ends well. And very interesting show. A very like I said, it feels like the beginning of a new chapter. And it was a fun watch. Any other thoughts on Progress chapter 39?
Yeah, I think, as you say, it was it was a weird show in that obviously everything had to be thrown out with the world title, and the build to Haskins winning the title had gone on for quite a while. You know, he was one of the top contenders in strong style that year, and then had to pull out of strong style. And I remember the noise when he won the Smash belt at Chapter 32 from Johnny Gargano.
Right.
The crowd, he was so popular with the crowd. He was like, people felt like he was their own family, you know, and people loved his wife, Vicky, and his kids were around a bunch as well. Like, real family guy. They did the documentary, and the big title win at Brixton. But, you know, if things shifted so quickly and they shifted into this different gear with Pete, and he goes on to be one of the best champions that the company ever had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Haskins still going after it. I think he just wrestled in Defy, or he's about to, or something like that. So he's still out there.
I think he wrestled for the world title, for the Progress title, in the main event at Strong Style this year.
Right. It's Kid Lycos. Yep. So he's still getting after it. Obviously, we got New, Catch, Republic still going out there. So,
well, Tyler's injured now, so I think Pete's on his. I don't watch WWE, but my understanding is that Tyler's injured and Pete's on his own again. At least he got his name back.
Yeah. No, yeah, Pete Dunne's definitely on a good trajectory right now, finally. Feels like it's taken forever. Tyler Bate, ever since he adopted yoga, I haven't really cared about the long hair and the chi and the robes and the I don't know, man. Just take off your knee pads and I don't know, airplane spin people. That's all I need from my Tyler Bate. That's all. I don't ask for much.
Yeah, Pete and Tyler were clearly two of the best wrestlers in the world at this point in 2017. It's kind of criminal that it's taken this long for them to get their really good run.
Oh my god!
You know, Tyler's been in that system forever.
Yeah, he's become an adult in there. Yeah, because he was like 19, I think, when he won the title, the UK title, and he's damn near 30 now. So if he's not already 30, I don't know. I don't know what time is, so it's not real. But
not sure. I know Will's a year younger than me, so he's 31 now.
Right.
So Tyler was a year younger than Will, I think, maybe 2 years younger.
Right. Are you still involved in the wrestling world at all?
No, really, not really. I watch it with my friends, but it's back to being a hobby. You know, it was a great time. I loved working with Progress, working with great friends and great people. You know, I got to travel to Germany. I got to travel. You know, I've got the picture from the Wembley show behind me. I mean, can never take that away from me, man. I got to work at the Wembley Arena.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it was a great time. I kind of left it behind after COVID, or just before, during COVID, wasn't a part of it. But like, John and I are still really good friends. RJ and I are still really good friends too. I'm looking at there's a picture of me with both of them at my first wedding on my desk.
Nice.
So I made some friends for life, made some great memories. It's kind of, the business has changed, and I feel like the indies are on the way up again now, but obviously things have been a bit tough the last few years, to where it's just, it's not been as good almost. And it feels a bit like when you watch, I mostly watch AEW these days. And, when you watch AEW and you think about the feeling, we talk about the feeling, can we get back the feeling? This period of Progress was kind of like, this was the feeling, this was when it was, they were and the next year they would do so many shows, multiple shows a month. They'd start going on week-long tours in the States and the tour of Germany, shows on WrestleMania weekends. Those few years where they were running like, I don't know, 30 plus shows a year.
Ooh.
It was such a great time for everyone involved. The crowds were really into it. The fans loved it. The wrestlers were having the matches they wanted to have. It was, it was a great memory.
Yeah, no, you got to live through a great time in wrestling. I mean, it's very, I relate it. I was really big into Ring of Honor back in the day, right. And there was like this feeling of like I'm watching some underground thing that only I'm watching, and it just is like this, it's a really cool atmosphere. The more not smaller, but it's just very compact venues and things like that. With the talent, by the way, guys that would become stars and wild to see.
I do think I was one of the first people to know that Progress was going to exist.
Oh yeah,
because Jim and John always tell the story that they were watching PWG at the Edinburgh Fringe, and that it was John's idea to run a show. And I, sometime after that, during that Edinburgh Fringe, because I live up here, I went and saw Jim because he had 2-for-1 tickets during the week, and I was a student and I was poor. I was one of me and my then girlfriend were 2 of 6 people in the audience at Jim's comedy show, and he came out to CM Punk's old theme, the Killswitch Engage theme. And then he mentioned that it was CM Punk's theme, and I wooed. So we did a fist bump, and then we chatted after, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing these shows with Mick Foley, and like me and my manager are going to start our own wrestling company in London." I was like, "Oh cool." So I followed him on social media, and that was how I ended up buying the first couple of DVDs, and then eventually going down. So
nice.
I had a long association with Progress.
Yeah, man, it was a fun journey. Loved your work and Progress on commentary with RJ and Glenn and all that stuff. Even though Glenn loves to burst my eardrums with his screaming sometimes, but it's fine. It's fine. I have a Travis Banks like bloody ear when I'm watching these shows sometimes, but it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, man, that's chapter 39. Man, anything else you want to plug, or where can everybody find you on the social medias and all that stuff?
Yeah, don't find me. I'm
Stay
good.
away from them.
No, I'm good. This was just an excuse to talk about the good old days with you. So
I really appreciate it. Yeah. If you ever,
I'm happy not being found on social media.
All right. Yeah. Well, if you see Callum on Twitter or anything, just go away. Scroll. Keep scrolling.
It's not for you.
Once again, thank you to Callum for joining me on this lovely, lovely show. Great time with Callum. Don't follow him anywhere. If you see him on the street, if you see him on social media, turn around, walk the other way. Don't say a word to him. Okay. Now shout out Callum. Check him out on Demand Progress Plus, where you can watch all of these Progress shows, including this one, including the most recent one, Chapter 169. I'll do more shilling here. Chapter 169, I did a watch along on my YouTube channel. Go check it out. It's up there now. And Chapter 39, you can also check out, use that promo code Watch Progress 5 to get half off your subscription. It really is a great deal. You're losing money if you don't take advantage of it. I'll just say that. So we'll see. So I'm debating on maybe even doing more watch alongs of this era of Progress. We got Chapter 40, obviously, coming up next, and playing around with the idea of doing a watch along of that show instead of a traditional review like this one. I'm playing around with the idea of like doing instead of, so not dropping Progress reviews entirely, but maybe shifting to more, doing watch alongs of these shows so that all of you can experience it with me. You can take advantage of that promo code and watch these shows with me. And maybe every once in a while, just do like a roundup, after every 5 shows or so, being like, have like a catch up podcast episode or review of the previous couple of months of Progress, and more of like a concise, consolidated bulk type of deal, right? I don't know, playing around with that idea. Let me know what you think. And yeah, I think that's all Daddy has for you today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Love you so much. Big old smooches all over your face. I'm hard.
Yeah. And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started.